Best bites forever.
Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, I'm going to show you how I decorated this Sugar Rush cake from Wreck-It Ralph. The first thing that I needed to do is build those little candy cane trees that you saw on the back of the cake. So to do that, I am using fondant. I have one piece of white and one piece of red, and I rolled the white kind of a little bit thicker than I did the red, and of course the red is a pretty thin little strand, and then I just kind of rolled it on there. It doesn't have to be perfect to start off because really what I'm trying to do is to kind of get them to join together and be one. So once I get there, I'm going to decide how long I want my tree thing to be, and then just cut it accordingly. Next, I'm cutting my little branches and again, just deciding how long I want them to be. One thing I do know is I want them to be quite a bit thinner than the trunk of the tree, so I'm kind of rolling them out a little bit more. And I also decided that I want this one to be a double stripe because if you saw the movie, then you know that they have some of the candy cane trees are double stripe because in the game you can't grab the double stripe candy cane trees. So I went ahead and I made this one a double stripe. I'm using just a little bit of water to kind of glue my tree together. They do sell fondant glue. I have actually never used it, so I can't tell you if it works better than water, but I can tell you that I have been using water to glue my fondant for like years, and I have never had a problem with it, so I'm cool with my water. And this is just me being a bit of a perfectionist and making sure that I like the way the branches are situated onto the trunk. Then I'm going to shape them into little candy canes, and I'm going to put these onto a sheet pan overnight. They need to dry, and they are going to be very fragile, so do keep that in mind. These are my cherries that I've simply put out of the jar and onto a paper towel so that they can start draining their juices. And while that is happening, I am going to work on my little cone mountains. So this is the next day, by the way, and I'm actually assembling the cake right now for the party. So my little candy cane trees have hardened overnight at this point. In this bowl over here, all I have is straight up melted chocolate. I didn't add anything to it. It's chocolate chips that I melted, and I'm just adding on some really cute sprinkles. Obviously in the game Sugar Rush, everything is kind of like super cute and like girly and kind of fun. So I did these little heart sprinkles. And then for my other two ice cream cones, I'm going to use a different kind of sprinkle. I'm just kind of propping them on the side of the plate here so that they can dry. The next thing that I'm doing is I am going to unwrap a whole bunch of these Lint little truffle things. I'm using the coconut flavor because I happen to love that one. And I also melted some white candy melts and some pink candy melts. I'm going to use those just to kind of like spread it across the top with a fork like so it's kind of like spattery. But one problem that I did run into was my little truffles were rolling. So I went ahead and I took my knife and I just trimmed the tiniest little sliver off of the bottom of each one. That way they weren't rolling because they had a nice little flat surface. So if you're having that issue, that was a really good solution for me. I went ahead and I finished up my white ones, and then obviously I switched over and I did my pink ones next. I'm going to go ahead and put pink on these last three, and I'll show you what that looks like right here. And then I just want to show you like a side view of the cake so that you can see what the fondant looks like on the two layers. So the way that I'm showing you now is from the top of the cake down, just so you can kind of get an idea of how the fondant was laid. So here I am adding some buttercream, and I'm just adding it like almost like whipped creamy dreamy, you know, like in puffs. And I did that all the way around in between the first and second layer. Before I go any further, I want to make sure that I know where my main characters are going, so I went ahead and I put them on the top of the cake right in the center, so that's going to be the front of the cake, the way that they're facing. And then I decided to place my cones because they are one of the bigger things that are going onto the cake. So once I decided where my cone was going to go, I put a whole bunch of buttercream along its rim, and then I placed it on the cake and I propped it up with this little can of sprinkles and that little piece of fondant because it's going to need to dry before, you know, it can hold itself in place. So while that is hanging out there, I'm just placing my cherries around the front, and I'm sorry because I didn't really get this on camera really well, but that is what it ends up looking like. So I did a cherry, and then I skipped two little puffs, and then a cherry and two little puffs. And I left those little puffs blank because I wanted to go back and put something else in between, and I decided on these peppermints. I thought that would look really cute. So I'm going to do the exact same thing around the bottom, and you can see here that that is all finished. The next thing that I started doing was placing some gumdrops, and Once I decided where these gumdrops were going to go, I did stick them down with just a tiny little dot of buttercream to make sure that they didn't move around. So that's what the cake is looking like so far, but we're definitely going to keep going because for me, a sugar rush cake should be like super, super over the top. So I wanted to add obviously a lot more to it. I went ahead and I put some buttercream there on the side, and I'm going to add my chocolate truffles right there. I'm not super concerned about the buttercream kind of like oozing out of the edges because I want this to be over the top and I want it to seem like, you know, it's just like exploding with candy and treats. And, you know, like when the kids see this cake, I want them to be like, ah, you know, and just want to attack it like some awesome kid cake party type of thing. So anyway, I went ahead and I kept putting my truffles on and just letting the buttercream kind of ooze out in between them and around them and in front of them, and I was totally fine with that. Then I decided to place this little chick, I can't remember her name, she's the other racer in the game, and her name is totally escaping right now. Does anybody know it? Leave it in the comments. Anyway, I put her also kind of in the front because she's one of the main characters. So this is Pocky, and I thought Pocky was like the closest thing to what I saw in Sugar Rush Land, and it might have even been Pocky in Sugar Rush Land, I'm not really sure, but I just kind of started placing those around on the top layer and then a couple in the middle, like on the second layer too. This is going to add some really nice height to my cake, which I love. I always want everything to be, you know, higher and higher, taller and taller. Next, I placed King Candy. Of course, he also needs to be in the front and kind of visible, so there he is. I put a big old blob of buttercream under him and just let it like drip out from under him. So I have this on a Lazy Susan, and I did that on purpose because I wanted the kids to be able to spin it and pick pieces of candy off of it as they ate it. I thought that would be really fun for them. So it's kind of just like dripping and oozing all over the Lazy Susan. I thought that was like kind of a cool effect for the kids, again, just to have it like dripping out everywhere. So the next thing that I'm adding on are some lollipops, and I'm going to add 3 on. I had originally bought the kind of huge ones that are like swirly, you know, and like you get them at Disneyland or whatever, but I decided not to use those because I felt like the proportion of them was just like a little bit big for the cake and that it would end up taking away from the cake, and I ended up settling on these smaller ones. I think that they look really great, so if you're putting on something like that, it's going to look better in like 1s, 3s, or 5s. For whatever reason, our eyes like to look at odd numbers, so I chose to put 3 there. The next thing that I did is I put some buttercream along the front of my Lazy Susan. So again, it just kind of looks like it's like pouring over the edge, as you can see. And then I just added some nerds right on top of that to give it some nice bright color. And again, to be really, really kid friendly, because this is for my daughter's 10th birthday party and she's having a slumber party. And I know all of her friends are going to be like, oh, when they see the cake. And I just love, love, love that. So I only have one more final touch here to put onto my cake, which is my candy cane trees, and these are super fragile. Like, you definitely do not want to just shove them down into the cake because they will break right in half. So what I did is I just took a skewer and I kind of stabbed down into the cake where I wanted them to go, and then I oh so gently placed them down into the holes of the skewer. And once I got a few more of my little candy cane trees down in there, this is what my cake ended up looking like. So I'm just going to give it a nice little spin here for you to show you a little view of the front and the back. You can see that I put the candy cane trees not just on the top, but also on the second layer. I think it's really important to kind of have everything spread out, and you know, like I said, I wanted this cake to look over the top and busy and covered with candy, like, you know, Sugar Rush exploded all over it. And I absolutely love it. My little girl loved it so much, and I wish I would have filmed the kids attacking it, but I didn't. But I will show you the aftermath. This is like 10 seconds after I put the cake. Okay, maybe not 10 seconds, but right after I put the cake on the table, and this is what it looked like after 8 little girls completely demolished it. Well, 8 little girls and my son. I'm pretty impressed myself at what a good job they did at destroying this cake. Hi again, everyone. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please give it a thumbs up or a like or whatever you want to call it. Also share it with all of your friends because sharing is caring. And if you're not already a subscriber, please go ahead and click on the subscribe button and be a subscriber now, because you don't want to miss any of the upcoming awesomeness that's coming, because it's awesomeness. And you can find me on my other social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, and bestbitesforever.com, which is my blog. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Happy cooking, everyone.
bestbitesforever.com